Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to episode 80 of the Teach Emilio podcast. I'm your host, Emilio. Today, I brought someone quite special. It's been a very, very long time, so thank you for joining us. On today's episode, we'll talk a bit about Christmas, cultural differences, and a lot more. I'm not going to give you many spoilers, but anyways, without further ado, let's welcome my friend Diana. Hello, Diana, and welcome to the podcast.
Hello, thank you so much for having me.
Look, before we get started, just a quick intro. So Diana is someone who has been in Australia for over 10 years. She's originally from Paraguay. And, well, as you can see, she is someone who's been, well, I'll tell them a bit of a spoiler, someone who's worked in different industries. Now she currently works in government. So I thought it would be pretty cool to bring her in. And we'll talk a bit about Christmas as well, because you are also a mom.
Sure,
But now that I've said a bit of an intro, can you tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Sure. So my name is Diana, and yes, I am originally from Paraguay. Yes, but I'm also half Taiwanese. So my dad is from Taiwan, and I married a Greek. So my kids, as you can, probably already know, they have 3 different type of races in them. So it's interesting.
Oh, wow. How do they take that as in?
The eldest one, I've got two girls. The eldest one, she knows who she is, but she keeps sometimes saying, "Mommy, am I half, from Paraguay or half from, Greece or whatever?" And I said, "No, baby, you are, half Greek and then 1/4 Taiwanese and 1/4 from Paraguay." And they're like, "Oh, okay."
Look, let me translate that for our Latino audience. That basically means she's Latina.
See, that's it.
And as long as she speaks a bit of Spanish, she'll be considered Latina.
Yes.
And funny enough, since you mentioned that, I remember that maybe let's test your memory.
Yes.
I remember the very first thing, or one of the very first things I asked you is like, because you said I'm from Paraguay, so I thought, wait, but your last name is Greek.
Yes, I remember that.
And then it's like, or it has to be Greek. And then you're like, yeah, that's right. And interestingly enough, it was that your husband was Greek, but he's Greek Australian, right?
Yes.
Or is he?
He was born here, but he's from Greek background. But yes, he's more like an Aussie.
And one of the things, because we've got a big mixed family here. I thought it would be interesting since Christmas is close by. We could talk a bit about the differences between Christmas in South America and also Christmas here in Australia. But before we get into that, I think it'll be interesting to hear a bit about your story. So you've been here for quite a while.
I have.
And what made you come to this huge isolated island?
To Australia. Okay. Prior to Australia, I was actually in Taiwan. But it was a stage of my life that I kind of wasn't really sure what I was going to do. I sort of studied something. I had this idea of what I wanted to be. And then I got offered the opportunity to come here by my family. And then I thought, okay, well, I took it. I actually back then was pretty ignorant, so I didn't actually know much about Australia at all. I knew it was far, and that's all.
Kangaroos, maybe?
Maybe, or koalas, and that's about it. But, it was at that time of my life where I was like, okay, I think I should go and I should take it. I was, I think, 20 something, pretty young. So I took it. So I came here and I studied English as well, because I came in with very, very basic English, just English from school, So I did that for about 6 months, and then I went on to TAFE, first. And I studied hospitality and events from then. I thought that's what I wanted to be and do. Okay, so I went and did that. Then finished that, really got into hospitality and events and did that really well. I actually got a graduate position at our hotel. So that was really cool. I was there for 5 years. And then from then on led into other opportunities. And then halfway through, I thought, no, I don't think I want to do this. I want to do language because I love languages and I'm naturally good at it. So then that's when we met. So I did Mandarin, translation in Mandarin and interpreting Spanish. Is that what we did? Interpreting? No, the other way.
Translation.
We did translation. Yeah, that's what I did. And then after that, I don't know. I think it didn't work out the way I thought it was going to be. So then I started a side business. I continue on with my hospitality, and events career, but then I started a side business, and then and it went on from there. I just kind of let life lead me,
Awesome.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty cool that you basically you just came to Australia and you said, okay, let's see what can I find or explore, and then all these things happened.
Yeah.
And before we keep going, I have to ask you, you mentioned that you got a graduate position at a hotel, and now I'm not a migration lawyer or agent or anything along those lines, but a lot of students or people that listen to the podcast think of getting either a graduate position or some people are finishing their courses, degrees. Since we're entering 2024, can you tell us how was that experience for you, or how you landed on that position? Because I think that would be quite interesting for people to...
Of course. When I came to Australia, I think I said to myself, you know what, I'm going to dedicate a lot of what I'm doing and really focus and do the best I can in everything. So I actually landed that role from a teacher directly. One of my teachers said to me, hey, Diana, there's a role available here. Did you want to go? They have an open day. I think you should go and apply. You'll be really good at it. And I literally went. It was like an interview. There was like hundreds of people there, and I was like one of the 5 people that got hired from 100 or so people for that in the hotel. But I think I got there by really like doing my best at school, at TAFE at that time. And then, my teachers just came to me, I wasn't even planned. They just said, I think you should go for it. So, for the listeners, it would be like, just dedicate, give the best you can, and when you do, you kind of stand out. And when you stand out, I think you get more opportunity. Isn't that just natural?
True. Look, I would say as a teacher, first of all, I like the message is like, make sure you not only stay connected to your teachers, and also, by the way, thank you for the support listening to the podcast, for the reviews in Spotify, everything now here on YouTube and everything. But it's true, because I think I would add up to that, at the end of the day, teachers can notice those things. And it's great that you had really good scores, but even if you don't, and you show that you're really passionate, that you really like those things, I would say that in most cases, I cannot talk for every teacher, but most teachers would be willing to help, or maybe pinpoint you in a direction that would eventually, help you or lead to more opportunities.
100%. And I think it's just showing those ethics, like if they see that you have good working ethics, whether you have good scores or not, I think a lot of organizations now, if we're going to lead to that conversation, but like if, a lot of organization now, your skills is really the second what they look for. They really look into that characteristic of that person, your ethics, your values and things like that. So,
okay.
Which is obviously certain things you need, high skills, like for a surgeon, for example, you need to be proper, have the proper skills for that. But in saying that, like you said, have that connection with your teacher, if you're still studying,
there we go.
Ask them for support. If you need more work, go and ask them for more work. But you need to know yourself, I think.
That's a very good point. Something I always say in class is, look, guys, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a psychologist, but if anything's happening, let me know, because even if maybe I could help you, but if I can't, I'll tell you
where to go.
Exactly. That's a really cool message, and it's great because from then on, you basically moved on and basically had other opportunities in that industry. Yeah,
that's it. I think for me, I've been here for 16 years now, so it's been a long time. And life gives you challenges all the time. You think you want to do something and then you go for it and it's not quite, and that happens to people. Like sometimes, I feel like I'm all over the place, but because I have a lot of passion, that I'm interested in a lot of things, and then you kind of have to like, okay, out of everything I like, what do I like the most? Let maybe just focus on one and let's just keep going with that one, that will be my suggestion as well as an older person,
Nice.
to the young listeners. my suggestion will be just pick the one that you like the most and give it your all. You know,
Nice. I like that. Laser focus on one
laser
thing.
focus on one thing, 100%. Because if you give 100% of the one thing, just wait for the results. It will be so amazing. You know?
Well, you know, you just mentioned that you've been here for 16 years. And, you know, you also mentioned how your daughter is like, Mommy, how do I feel? I'll tell you, I mean, or I think I've mentioned this, but I'll just say it again. Something that happens to me is that I'm at this strange state where I don't feel Australian. I mean, a part of me feels Aussie, but I mean, I don't feel Aussie enough to say I'm Aussie. And I always say I'm from Venezuela, but it's been funny because, for example, last year I was in Brisbane and I talked to someone and they're like, oh, mate, where are you from? And, you know, my default answer is always, I'm from Venezuela. And it's like, no, where are you from in Australia? And I was like, whoa,
wow,
that was a compliment. I was like, oh, I'm from Melbourne. And then it's like, oh, Melbourne, blah, 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 blah. And the conversation kept going. So it's not, I mean, it's a strange feeling as in, you know, now Australia's home. I've been here for 11 years. You've been here 16. So how do you feel about that?
It's gone like a flash. You know, going back to my initial story or coming to Australia, I never thought I would stay here, you know. So, but I came and then I studied and then I met my husband and then that's it. The rest is history, you know. I've been here for 16 years. We've been married will be 10 years next year.
Oh, congrats.
Thank you. 2 children. I don't know. I love my little family. And of course, you know, I feel like culturally, even though I am an Aussie, technically on paper, I still, now that my kids are getting older, I feel like they are the real Aussies and I can see myself as a non-Aussie, you know, because sometimes I'll say certain things and Illy will be like, Mommy, that's not how you say it. And I'm like, oh, you're right, actually. It's not. But I said, and then I'll say, Illy, I'm sorry. I just had the Spanish in my head, or the Mandarin in my head, you know? So she's starting to correct me now because I don't know if this happens to you, but whenever I speak another language during the day and then I go on to work and speak in English, I'm all over the place because I just spent like 2 hours. It happens, though, doesn't it?
It is a thing. It is a thing.
It is a thing, yeah.
Oh my goodness, that's interesting. And I had to ask because for me, I mean, I always say this in class as well. It's like I don't like saying I've been here for 11 and a half years because it's like, ooh, he's been here for so long. But it's like, no, mate, no. The only difference from that is, as you said, that one, it feels like it's gone as a flash. That maybe I can understand more Aussies when they speak like but
I still can't understand them, by the way.
There we go. So if you don't understand them, don't feel
bad.
And well, you know, now 16 years, that's quite a bit of time. And since we're in Christmas, you know, for example, right now, home is Australia for me. Luckily, I've got a family here. And just last night, literally, we made some hallacas, which is a traditional Venezuelan dish. And we were just listening to Venezuelan music. It's called gaitas. I think it's not only in Venezuela, but the point is, I mean, what I was thinking was, you know, since my wife is Japanese, we were just telling her, this is like the most Venezuelan you can get. And a part of me thought, I mean, and I remember saying this, is like, if we can't go to Venezuela, we bring Venezuela to us.
Yes.
With that said, how has it been Christmas for you since, I mean, there is so much of a mix and your husband is, you know, he grew up here, so I'm curious.
Of course. Christmas is very different for us here. I mean, it's definitely like we do in Paraguay or in any other, you know, Latin countries. South America, Central America. But I don't know, for us is, you know, and I said, okay, honestly, to me, Christmas here, it's a little bit stressful. It's overwhelming for me.
Ooh, how come?
Because, you know, it's really, you know, that very Western Christmas where you have to buy presents, you know, presents in the tree, Santa comes and all that sort of thing, right?
Ooh,
In my family in Paraguay, I don't think we had that. I don't remember opening presents in Christmas. I think presents was from Los Reyes Magos. No?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if you had that in Venezuela, but for us was, you know, Los Reyes will come. How do you say that in Spanish, by the way?
Los Reyes. I don't know. I would say like the 3 kings, maybe.
The 3 kings?
Or I would say...
Anyway, it's like a Catholic thing, right?
Yeah.
So that was probably the time that we will have, you know, something material.
Oh,
But
wait, so you didn't get presents in like the 24th
no,
at
I
night?
don't think so.
Oh, okay.
What about you?
I can see half of the audience screaming now. What?
I said it was different for you guys. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we would have presents on the 24th. We
Okay.
wouldn't celebrate Christmas on the 25th
Oh, yeah.
like we do here. So
Yeah.
it would be at the 24th, on the 24th at night.
The supper, right? Dinner
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
Yeah, and then you go overnight.
Yeah.
You celebrate overnight.
So
yeah.
it would be either overnight or, when I was little, I remember waking up on the 25th in the morning because, again, I was a kid. So it's like, okay, you cannot stay up until midnight. And
Yeah.
then,
Yeah. Okay, so for us, I think, it must be just my family thing then, because we are a really big family, over there. So we will celebrate the night before. So the 24th, we'll have dinner, we'll all stay until midnight, and everyone will drink like a little glass of sparkling or champagne and eating grapes. I think it was a thing. So eating grapes and drinking champagne. I think that was the thing for us.
Wait, was it in Christmas or New Year's?
Christmas. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, for 24 going on to Christmas Day.
Oh, cool.
And then the next day we'll just get up and it will be just a normal day. We'll have breakfast all together. And that's about it. I think that was more like our Christmas, Whereas so in comparison to here, we don't do anything on the 24th. The 24th for me is like making sure the kids are really sleeping, and then I'll quickly go and get all the presents and put it under the tree to pretend that it's Santa. I really hope my daughter doesn't listen to this.
Not to this part.
Not to this part. And yeah, and then that's it, And then the next day we'll go to a family house. So it will be my husband's side's family for lunch. And then we just kind of spend the afternoon together. And then by the time the evening comes, we'll just go home. So.
And what makes it stressful? Because a part of me imagines that, since all the Christmas things start popping up around late to mid-November, is it like setting up the tree, activities at school?
I think it's more buying the presents is what stresses me,
Oh,
for people.
tell us more.
I don't know. I just find it, nowadays kids have so much already. And it's like, what more do they need? That sort of thing is for me. Plus, I'm a little bit more traditional in that sense, in a way that, I don't know. Anyway, so buying presents is stressful for me. And like wrapping them, putting it into the tree and making sure you're buying the right thing for them. I just find that little part stressful. I mean, setting out the Christmas tree, we love it. And we kind of, from this year, because my youngest is older now, it's a family thing. So we all, put the tree together and they all hang the little things, the little
cool.
decoration.
But I have to say that I feel you. Let me just jump right in and
Yeah.
say that this could also be a cultural difference because my nephew grew up here in Australia, and I remember my brother telling me, not only in Christmas, in different occasions as well, but let's say Christmas, he would be like, oh, for Christmas, he wants this. And a part of me is like, mate, thank you, but I didn't ask you. I've got his present. And he's like, oh, no, but he wants, I don't know, let's say, for example, he wants a backpack. And I said, great, but I got him a microphone.
Yes.
And I already bought it. So
Yes.
he's getting a microphone.
Yes, exactly.
So I suppose that was a bit of the culture clash. And he would be like, yeah, but he wants the thing. And I know, but, this is what I got him. The present is from me type of thing.
Exactly. So kind of like that. But to be honest, to make it easier for my family, I just go straight to the parents now and say, hey, what does your kids need? And then I'll just literally buy them what they need, and that's it. So I found ever since I started doing that, we've been doing that for 2 years now, it's less stressful because then I know what I'm getting them and it's something they really need, whether it be summer clothes because summer, it's summer now in here and things like that. But still though, I think the other part for me is just spending the money, not because I don't want to spend money, but for me is I come from a country that is it's so poor.
I feel you.
And then I feel like, oh my God, I'm spending $1,000 all collectively for Christmas when in my own country, these kids don't even have food for Christmas. And that's like, I don't know, that's still really a big part of me, in terms of I come from a place that is not very privileged. So, and I'm always trying not to forget that, so whenever I can, we'll do something towards that. Do you know what I mean?
No, 100%. And I have to say, one, massive respect, and two, I totally feel you as someone who also, I think we came about around the same time, not the same time, around the same age. And Venezuela is still a country with a beautiful place, but I don't want to get cancelled. So let me just summarize it as with a lot of problems. Every country has problems.
Of course.
And then the funny thing was that I remember when I came to Australia, we would need to be, I don't want to say stingy, I'm going to say frugal. And I learned how to have a good time with very little. But now that's happening to me as well. I feel you. It's like, oh my God, I can splurge a bit, or like I can spoil myself a bit with a nicer present. But it's like, I just remember, again, it feels like 8 years ago. It sounds like a long time ago, but it feels like yesterday when I would be having something very basic. So it's always having that balance and not only just being grateful with what I've got now, but also, as you said, remembering where I come from, basically.
I know, and I'm so open about this in my family, even with my husband. I'll always say to him, oh, I feel really bad spending the money, because there's kids that don't have food in the world, right? And then he kind of gives me that reality check. He said, I understand where you're coming from, but you have what you have today because you worked for it yourself. So it's okay to spoil yourself if you wanted to. So if it's okay if you want to upgrade your podcast equipment or whatever, and things like that, So kind of put that into perspective as well.
No, true. Otherwise you go, and I mean, maybe this is something that happens to some of you guys.
Yeah,
it's like you stay in that down spiral. And then it's like, ooh, tricky.
It's tricky.
Question, I have to say, and I have to be honest with all of you, especially with you, but when you said it was stressful, what came to mind was wife, mom of two, being here for such a long time. Yes. Your husband is Australian, so I thought you would tell me something along the lines of, and he's also Greek, so I thought, whoa, it's gonna be like a big family, and I thought you would say like, Emilio, I have to cook so much, or we have to be the hosts, or I don't know, receiving. I don't know. That's what I thought when you meant stress. How has it been celebrating it with his family? Since I assume it would be different.
Yeah, no, that part is not stressful at all, I must say, because we always either go to my husband's family's house or his family. It's either his parents or his sister, and they're great cooks. So we're pretty lucky. We just go and enjoy food. Of course, we'll kind of, tell them, oh, can we bring anything? And then it will be something quite simple for me, like a salad or something. Whereas this year, there's a particular request. I'm bringing dessert this year because apparently I'm really good at making churros.
There we go.
Yeah, and I make my own dulce de leche as well. So,
oh my God,
which takes a long time, but it's really yum. So that's the request for me. So I have one job this year is to get my churros really, really good.
How many churros are you making?
Oh, I'm gonna have to make a lot. I got asked to make a lot, like
3 kilos of churros.
Probably.
Oh,
yeah.
I need to move into the next question.
Yeah. So in that sense, that it's not stressful. I have a beautiful Greek family here. And they kind of adopted me, really, because obviously I don't, apart from my brother being here and a couple aunties from my dad's side, I don't have, like, my mom and dad are not here, for example. So they are kind of like my parents. So my in-laws are my parents here. And yeah, they really adopted me ever since my husband and I met. So that part is not stressful because we are looked after so well.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yes,
Such
I'm very,
a good
very
story.
lucky.
I agree. I have to ask because since you've been here for such a long time, you've been adopted, or maybe I don't know if you've got friends, so you've heard this before, but I've been watching and some people on social media saying that, obviously, when you compare Australians and Latinos, the one key difference is that I suppose you're very close. And in Christmas, it's, I don't know if this is obviously all Australians, but maybe in some families here in Australia, people wouldn't spend time with their family, or like if it is the 24th, 25th, or maybe for New Year's, it's like, oh, look, for example, I'm in Melbourne, you're in Sydney, and then it's like they celebrate Christmas separately, which to me, my Latino side is screaming now, like that's crazy.
Yeah.
But I don't know if, well, it sounds like it doesn't happen in your family, or that hasn't happened to you, but what do you think about that, since you've been, interacting with Aussies for so long?
Yeah.
Do you think that's, or that, let's say, that would be true?
I think it will be case by case, maybe. I know a lot of Aussie families that they maybe celebrate their Christmas earlier, like, they go and spend all the Christmas thing a week before. So when it comes to actual Christmas Day, they are with their own little family, but it doesn't mean that they didn't come together at some point before Christmas, leading into Christmas or after Christmas. Does that make sense? And that could be for a variety of reasons. It could be avoiding traveling when it's so busy on the road. And obviously it gets more expensive as well, you know, depending on which location you're heading to. But yeah, I feel like I don't feel like I heard anybody that, you know, I don't want to spend with my family or whatever. But it's more like, you know, finding a different time or date for it instead.
Interesting. Yeah, it would be more like logistics. So
Logistics probably, yeah.
because let's assume that, you know, if your husband was from Perth, then it would be like 4 plane tickets.
Correct.
Peak time, and then probably it may not be. Obviously, you guys could probably do it, but it's like, okay, look, we're gonna spend twice as much when we could go for a third or maybe half the price 2-3 weeks before, and then do something else in Melbourne. So that's a really good way of putting it.
Yeah.
But again, my Latino side is still like, oh my God, it's Christmas with family.
Yeah, exactly. Because same for us in Paraguay. Like my aunties now all live in different city, and I think I was talking to my mom today. I think they're all going to the city where I'm from to spend the Christmas together. So, you know, it's either we used to go up to them or to my grandparents' house, or they will come down. Like maybe we'll take turn every year. I'm not sure, but it was always someone always travel, right? But traveling over there, it's a lot easier, I think,
True.
than here. You know, Australia is so big. Even going to Sydney, you know, if you're going to drive, it's going to be a lot of hours. And if you're going to fly, you know, in a low season will cost you $100, but Christmas time will cost you $600.
Oh, there we go.
Do you know what I mean? Like, yeah, I think it all depends.
And when it comes to, you know, this time of the year, since you've been adopted, have you had any culture shock when it comes to interacting with your Australian family, or any big differences when you think of like South America versus or let's say Latinos, the Spanish speaking world, and Brazil versus, you know, Australia?
I think culturally for me, and my Greek family, I think we're pretty similar because, you know, we're very family orientated, and the Greeks are very family orientated as well. But in comparison to my real Aussie friends, I think there's a slight difference, you know. For the difference is, I don't know, I wouldn't say that they're not close, but maybe we are, we show our love more, you know, like, you know, I can say to my other Greek friends, oh, you know, you're a really great friend, I really love you, you know, and things like that. And you can really open up about how you feel, you know, towards them. And maybe with my real Aussie friends, not so much, you know. I think that's the difference maybe. Like we're a bit more
interesting,
warm.
Or it would be like, I suppose if you were to tell them that, as in to your Greek friends, it would be like, yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Whereas if you tell this to your Aussie friends, it's like, thank you, but why are you telling me this?
Yeah,
type of thing.
Exactly. Yeah, it's kind of like, that's weird, you know.
and I guess, maybe it's similar to what happens in Asia, right? Because you've been in Taiwan, and what I've heard from students is that it's not common to express love the way we do in South America.
Yeah, exactly. Oh yeah, that's a big cultural difference too. And I see it, like even with my dad, right? I will go to my dad and I said, oh, I love you or whatever. He'll be like, what do you want? You know? You know, so what is it that you want? And I'm nothing. Can I just tell you that I love you, you know? And all the sort of thing, you know. And yeah, it's just that difference, you know. And, you know, my mom, I think has that struggle, you know, that, I wouldn't say a struggle. She's married all these years still, and, you know, but just definitely you can say, if we put it in a like simple words, warm and cold, you know, like I feel like the Latinos, us, were a bit more warmer, and then maybe the rest a bit more to the cold side. But I'm half, and apparently I'm on the cold side. So I'm more, yeah.
There we go. This is cold,
yes,
guys.
This is cold.
Imagine.
Can you imagine what warm will be?
Oh, wow. Interesting.
Very interesting.
Now, you know, thinking about life in Australia, because with Christmas, so many, and with New Year's, just before we wrap up with Christmas, New Year's. Are there any differences you've noted or noticed in New Year's?
No, I think New Year's is pretty similar. You know, everybody just goes somewhere and then try to do a countdown. So for us now, because we have young kids now, we try to avoid that. It's just a bit too much. You know, the kids get really tired towards the end. You actually don't end up enjoying. And I have this thing where you have to kind of start the year feeling grateful and happy, and, you know, so then it gives the new year a good tone already walking into the new year. So
Nice.
we've decided that every New Year's Eve, you know, we will just put the kids to bed normal time, and then we will just kind of like appreciate the life or everything we achieved that year, and then kind of roll. Maybe my husband and I will just like have a little cheese with a glass of wine or whatever, and that's it. And then we'll go to sleep. You know, so there's no big party or anything anymore, because it's too much. The children are so tired that time, you know, and they don't know that what's this for, you know.
Well, that's so true. Funny story. One time I remember when my nephew would have been like, I don't know, maybe 7, 8. In something we do in Venezuela, maybe in Paraguay it's the same. We basically pack up our suitcases. Not always, but sometimes we pack the suitcase or a suitcase, and you just walk around your neighborhood. We were staying at an Airbnb around, what is it called? Around Lakes Entrance or like that area. And funny enough, my mom is like, okay, we are leaving. And, you know, she said it as a joke. It was like 1 a.m. And my nephew, half asleep, was like, where? And my mom is joking, oh, we're going to Italy. And what? Now? Where are we going? Holiday? And I was like, come, let's go. And it was like a big, you know, shock for him. And it's like, again, an interesting difference. So it sounds like you guys opted for something more relaxing to
100%.
avoid.
Yeah. Plus, I don't know if it's the same for you, but, you know, life in Australia can be pretty hectic, you know, is not just hard to get from one location to another because, you know, everything is so big. It's very fast paced depending on where you work, you know, what you do, and all those sort of things. So when it comes to Christmas and New Year's for us, especially my family, is like our relaxed time. You know, if you see my schedule with my husband for the week when the kids are at school and kinder, you will think we're crazy people.
Oh, wow.
But that's just reality, and it's everybody with family, you know. So we opt for a more relaxed version of celebrating.
And, you know, since you mentioned your husband, last question when it comes to family, any culture shocks or differences from his side? Because, I mean, you are saying that you are cold, but I would assume, I would assume that for the average Aussie, you would be like, oh my God, Latina, Paraguay, oh, super warm. So I'm just curious if there are any, you know, shocks from his side.
Oh, no, I think my husband thinks I'm cold too.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he'd be like, and if he listens to this, he'd be like, yep, she's right. I think not so much. I mean, his family are pretty, you know, warm, on the warmer side as well when it comes to like, you know, showing affection and all this sort of thing. The culture, I think that if we're gonna talk about something really different, that in terms of what we do and what they do and we don't, is you know, most of Greeks are Greeks Orthodox, right? And their Easter, for example, is really big. So you have to go to church at midnight during Easter.
Oh, wow.
You know, and all the sort of things. So we don't see that like in my Catholic family.
Same.
We don't do that. So that was a little bit of a cultural shock at first, you know, and then you go to church, you go and light your candle, and then you take it home, you bless your home with your candle, and then you go to either the grandma's house or something, have a special soup at midnight. That is all part of that Greek Orthodox Easter tradition. So that was kind of a little bit of a shock maybe at first, because we don't do that for Easter, but I'm used to it now.
Oh, wow, how cool.
Yeah, it's cool, but again, it's really cool, yeah.
This is a good story of how you can adapt and change, and I like how, you know, both of you guys basically nurture each other and you learn from each other. Pro tip: find a partner with similar family values as you. I think that because I guess if you know, like you, I mean, if you're more someone who is used to, or like you're more family oriented, and you've got someone who doesn't want to spend time with family, that's going to be a bit of a clash, and that will be
100% values. And it's funny you say that, because last night we were talking about our values.
literally
We were literally just talking about our values, and and appreciating similar values that we have with our friends, and things like that, and how important that is. Your values really, I think your values and morals and all of that is really important. You really need to, ensure that you're on the same page, because it can be really tough if it's not.
And talking about tough things, one very tough thing is changing jobs, careers. And this is something that you have done, and you touched a bit on this. So now we're going to change gears and come back to that. And can you tell us a bit about how that happened? Because you started in hospitality, you got your graduate position at a hotel. And then what made you change? I mean, when we met, I think you were in a different place. So can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, of course. When we met, I was still under the hospitality umbrella. So, I started off in luxury hotels, from service area first, and then went on to sales, and then from sales into catering, doing events and so forth. And then that's kind of where I found my jam, I thought, okay, I think I really like doing events and all this sort of thing. Because I like organizing things. So then I went on to working for catering companies. So I worked for 2 really big Melbourne catering companies at that time. Really, demanding jobs, because, the results of the event, really land on you as the organizer. Of course, you will have a lot of stakeholders that need to be involved, like the kitchen, operations, suppliers and everything. But it's your job to have everything in line for everything to happen on that day, from what's going to happen from, 9 o'clock to 9:30, and then from 9:30 to 9:45, and things like that. So really, really enjoyed doing that. But, and then obviously we had the pandemic that no one ever thought it coming. And that, it literally put the world into a pause. And at that time, there was, hospitality, everything was closed.
Yeah, everything was takeaway.
Everything was takeaway. But for us, we did sort of try to pivot as well and provide like boxes so people can still do the celebration at their own homes with no guests. But, that sort of thing. But I remember that time actually when all of this started in the news. One, I was heavily pregnant. 2, I was, saying to my clients, oh, maybe we should move your event to July, because I thought, oh, this will last 3 months. Little did we know it lasted 2 years, And at that time, I said to myself, I looked at my husband, I'm like, no, I don't think this is going anywhere. I think this is here to stay for a while. So I said to him, I'll quit. I'm going to quit. So I quit my job. And obviously it was COVID anyway. I was having a baby anyway. So it kind of for us worked out really well, because I was going to take a break anyway for a year. And then after that, I said to myself, okay, I feel like going back to hospitality. One, I achieved what I wanted to achieve there already. Maybe I should look at doing something different. So then I searched for maybe doing something for firms, organizing things for private firms and so forth. And then the opportunity came up with the organization that I work for now. And then I took it. And that's it. And I work for a firm within the Victorian government. And I've been there for over 2 years now, and it's really enjoying my job.
Oh, that's amazing. And quick question, with your current job, are you doing similar things to what you did in terms of like organizing events and let's say communicating with stakeholders and everything?
Yeah, it started off with that. So I applied for a role that was specifically to do 2 events a year. And then I went on to doing that. And then from then on, I kind of found my own way and said, okay, maybe we could do some more work on here. We could probably do more work there. And then I started kind of like voicing my views. What do you think of, focusing on here? And then from then led into me getting into the branding side of the organization, communications and engagement and so forth. So I still do events, but instead of doing 2 little events a year, we now do 1 really big one a year. So kind of combining it too, and it's a lot more quality. But again, those kind of things were my own observation that I thought, okay, I think we should make it better. And why don't we do it once a year, you know, rather than twice a year? But at least it's a one good one. You know?
Cool.
And things like that. So I think, you know, again, I think I'm just naturally type of person who I will look for opportunities, and if I see one, I will want to kind of test it out, you know. I'm curious, if that makes sense.
Oh, 100%.
Maybe that kind of, you know, answers a lot of my messy life.
I think it's pretty interesting how you basically used your skill set to
get in.
To start in a different position, and then you basically went out of your way to try some other things, and then basically that got you to where you are now, where you're still in the same area, but you're also touching up on different things. And I guess maybe we could say that if you hadn't done those things, you may not be where you are now.
No.
And that's pretty interesting, because sometimes we feel like, oh, I'm in this position, and then I'm gonna stay doing this, and that's it. But then in reality, you could maybe take some of those skills and you know, pivot into other areas that you may be interested in.
Yes, of course. But I must say, I've been quite lucky as well. Obviously, you know, the organization that I work for is amazing, and I also have really great leaders, and I think that also helps as well, you know. But again, going back to communicate with your teacher about what your needs are, communicate with whatever mentor you have, you know. It's good, and that's what I always do. I like to communicate. I don't like to assume, you know. So if you want something, then ask your leaders, ask your managers, ask your supervisors, you know, what's the worst that can happen? They will just say no now or no forever. But at least with that answer, then you can think about, okay, what am I going to do next then? Okay, if I don't see an opportunity where I am now, then I said, okay, well, I'll give myself 6 months. I'll do everything I want to do, and then I'll go somewhere else, you know. But, you know, I think, again, communicate with your leaders, communicate with your supervisors, your teachers, your family, you know, talk about it.
That's so interesting, because question, but when we mention communication, quick anecdote. I remember when I became a teacher, I started telling friends and family after I had saved and paid for the teaching course. And not everyone, but some people, I mean, I wouldn't say backlash, but they would tell me like, oh, but you're wasting your degree because you're an accountant. Why are you? You're like a moving Excel spreadsheet, man. What are you doing? Why are you, you know, becoming a teacher? English. Why don't you? Where, I mean, quote unquote, you're wasting your degree. And then I think that it could happen to some people when they talk to, you know, their close circle. Did you experience any of that, or? Yeah, maybe. But and then that goes back into what you did at uni or whatever. Doesn't necessarily mean that that's the path you're going to take, you know, and it's totally fine if you don't. People, for me, for example, it has taken me, like, I'm in my mid-30s now. It has taken me all this time to kind of like understand myself better, you know. Some people do it earlier and they know what they want to do earlier, and so great on them, like kudos to you, you know. But the most of us, you know, we still kind of discover ourselves. But plus, as humans, I feel like we grow, you know, and depending on your circles, you grow to become a different person, you know, and then your views will change, you know. What you liked before, you may not necessarily like now. But again, going back to, as you keep evolving as a person, always find that one thing that you really connect with and you're really good at, or you know, you really want to explore more and really focus on that, you know. So yes, I think, you know, I think I would, if you ask me, do you regret, you know, doing hospitality and then, you know, studying translation and language or whatever? No, absolutely not. The way I write my notes at work is the way we write a note as a translator, as an interpreter. Oh,
how good is that? It's so fast.
Yeah, very efficient.
You use quotes, very efficient. You look back, even you will see my notes. I can show you now because this is my work bag. I've got my line in the middle. You know how we do our lines in the middle? You guys might not understand this, but and your line in the middle and your codes, that's it, how I write. And my colleagues will be like, what is that, Di? I'm like, don't worry, it's just my own way of doing notes. You know, I don't even have to go there, but it works for me, you know? And that's what makes me efficient, maybe, you know? I don't know.
That's so cool because I mean I relate to what you just said because say for example for those of you that have been following the podcast, and by the way thank you for your support, basically interestingly enough you're right, like people do change. I remember this would be like about a year-ish ago. I was, well, no, by then I had finished, let's say a year and a half ago, I had finished a long distance triathlon race. So in the lead up to that race, I trained like crazy, like 20-25 hours a week.
Wow.
Yeah, but now, I mean, after, let's say that I completed that race, I said, okay, now I want to try to grow in other areas. And I went like crazy to study Japanese, to pass the Japanese IELTS. And now then I enrolled in another course again and back into uni. So it's interesting how I basically changed all the training that was like 20 hours a week for more time, let's say, in this case, studying Japanese or improving my translation skills or, like I said, going back to uni, making this video podcast. And by the way, if you haven't already, you have to subscribe or leave me a review on Spotify if you're listening to it on the car. So crazy because it's, you're right. Like, I mean, life does change. And at the end of the day, whatever you have done, you can take. I mean, I always say to students and everyone, just take the best from whatever you've got. So I think 100%. That's a really good analogy.
Yeah, I think so. And sometimes I feel like, I still, like I said, I admire those ones who found themselves already early on, and great on you. But most of us, we don't. And it's like, don't regret what you've done in the past, instead of regretting it, like learn from it. Okay, what is it that I've done? Emilio, I started a side hustle, for example, it didn't lead to where I wanted to lead, but do I regret doing it? Absolutely not. I don't regret doing it at all. One, I've learned so much. Two, I actually really enjoyed doing it when it was on its peak, and just next time, I still have this goal that I want to work for myself in the future. But I have that as an experience to learn from, and then therefore I won't make the same mistakes I've done, and things like that. So
no, I totally feel you with that.
Yeah.
That's something that happened with this podcast. I was on a run, and then a part of me thought, maybe I'm recommending so many podcasts to students. Maybe I should make one. And then my first thought was, yeah, mate, but you're not Joe Rogan. But I thought, but I don't know if I want to be Joe Rogan. I thought it would be cool to just put this out on the internet, and then, look at this. It's like having a mini studio.
Exactly. Well, it's really cool.
Slowly
well
improving.
Done, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
And I do follow you.
And thank you, by the way. And yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy because I think this relates to a lot of things that could happen to anyone coming to Australia.
100%.
I've had students who are engineers, lawyers, or basically very fixed professions, let's say, in their countries, and then they come to Australia and they do something completely different, and that could also be a challenge. It's like, because maybe coming from South America, it's very fixated, as in, if you are an accountant, you are an accountant for life.
Do.
Exactly. Yeah. Whereas when you're here in Australia, it's crazy because you could be an accountant but do cycling or have different hobbies, different things, and it's common to move or change careers. So common.
And that's the one a great thing, for example, maybe being in Australia, it's really common. I've known people who were lawyers before, and now they are more into the people space, for example,
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And then I've known so many people where, I don't know, where in like starting to be a physio or something, but and then they really liked to do things in beauty, so then they've gone and done that, there's I don't know, the sky's the limit.
There we go.
And also another thing, if your audience, Emilio, I'm more on the younger side, and if I was to talk to my younger self, would be, focus on yourself. Don't worry about what other people are doing. Literally, just focus on you. Of course, we all kind of sometimes we may feel not jealous, but I wish I was like that or whatever, in comparing to your peers and so forth. But don't do that. Be kind to yourself, just be you and try to focus on you, and that's it,
That
would be my own younger, if I was to talk to a younger Di,
This is amazing because I was going to say that, despite having an amazing time, we're getting close to the end, and usually towards the end of the episodes, I'm sure you know what I'm about to tell you.
Yeah.
The spotlight is on you, and you know, we touch on so many things: family, Christmas, careers, you know, coming to Australia. So I thought it would be good. I mean, even I know you have given us your message to your younger self, but I mean, as you know, there may be someone out there that is thinking of coming to Australia, maybe is here, or someone who just loves the podcast. So thank you. And the question would be, what would be your final closing message? There you go.
Okay.
Or what would you, you know, since we touched on so many different things, what do you feel like sharing with everyone?
Oh, that's a tough one there. I think.
Ooh, didn't mean to put you on the spot.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I like a good challenge.
Oh, there you go.
Okay, so if you're not in Australia yet, let's.
Oh, nice.
If
I like that.
If you're not in Australia yet, don't give up. If Australia is the place you want to go, or maybe Australia is not the place you want to go. It could be New Zealand, it could be Japan, whatever. But you still, you know, listening to these, really do your research. You know, connect with people that may. Don't be afraid to talk to your connections. You never know who the other person will know. You know, sometimes, you know how they say it's not what you know, but it's who you know. Does that make sense? So I will suggest that, you know, do your research and have a plan. You know, if it is financial plan, for most of us, you know, who come from Central America or South America, it's always maybe most of the time in terms of, you know, making sure that our finances are in line before we can make that move. Okay, get the simple Excel spreadsheet out, you know, and then like have a plan, you know, and talk to your family so they can support your plan, you know. That will be one for the ones who are not yet where they want to be.
This is so good. Please keep going.
If you're in Australia already, and let's say you're struggling with culture, or you're struggling with finding the right job, or you know, you feel like, but I'm a professional back in, I don't know, Colombia, you know, I'm a doctor, or I'm a lawyer, and now I have to start all over again. Well, reassess why you did the move. You know, if you were a lawyer back then, okay, so why did you move? You know, rethink of that, why you made the change to come here, and then focus on that why you came, whether it's for a better life for your family or anything like that. Focus on that. Then that will remind you again on that big step you made, you know, and again, you know, try to choose whatever path you choose, but that will lead you to where you want to go. You may sometimes, when you want to get to somewhere, you may not have a straight line with you know, without any obstacles. Sometimes you may need to like do a U-turn or turn left or right before you head to your destination. So I will probably suggest that. I don't know. Is that a good?
That's unreal. Yeah, that's really good.
And I think, I feel like we need to always reassess ourselves. Again, this is a conversation I had with my husband again last night, again with values and everything. You always have to just pause for a minute and then like, am I where I want to be? Am I the person I want to be? You know? And then,
wow.
I know it's a big question.
Yeah.
But
very deep.
Very deep. But we get caught up in life so much that we don't ask ourselves that question, you know? And I feel like it's important to do.
Please ask yourself that. And that's true. I would also say that it's interesting you mention all this, because a part of me thinks that it's always good to also look at where you are now and compare it where you were before, if that makes sense.
100%. Yeah.
Because sometimes it would be like, oh, but this is not good enough, or this and that, and it's like, whoa, relax, man.
Relax.
Or it's like, in my case, it would be like, look at what I was doing before. Or sometimes, you know, we could be very tough on ourselves, and that's obviously not good. And then it could be anything really. Yeah. And then it's like, for example, let's say I'm just gonna put me on the spot. It's like, oh, maybe the video is not great, or I should have put more things here. And it's like, yes, obviously. I mean, then another part of me is like, yes, there's room for improvement, but it's like, mate, relax. It's your third, you know, video like this. It's not gonna be, you know,
it's not gonna be perfect.
Exactly.
And that's fine. And sometimes things are not perfect at the best. Because you know, it's more authentic, it's genuine, and I think we don't get that in the world very much anymore. You know, that genuine, you know, that real thing. You know, we'll look at social media everything looks so good, but out of that, how much is real?
True. Maybe
You
lots of
know?
things are sugar coated.
Yeah,
I'll
of
keep this
course.
as thank you for that. This is a good reminder to keep the podcast as genuine
Genuine
as
as
possible.
of course, yeah. And I think you're doing that. So, and if your followers probably appreciate that as well.
Wow. Thank you. It's been an amazing episode 80. Oh my goodness.
80. Oh
Yeah.
my God, congrats.
Well, slowly. And
Yeah.
then, look, I'm sure that we should do a part 2
Yes.
later
sure.
on in the future. I know you're going to be busy and that you want to relax New Year's. So probably later next year.
Sure.
I mean, we'll see because there's lots of things to talk about. And we touched up on family. Oh,
Yeah, maybe your audience can guide us on what they want to talk about.
If you've got any questions or any interesting topics you would like us to cover, please let us know a comment or message me on Instagram. And Dai, as always, thank you so much because I had a fantastic time. I hope you also had a good time.
Yeah, definitely.
And also thank you to all of you. Maybe you were on your commute, maybe you went shopping, or you just placed this on your TV. I don't know, but we were part of your day. You were part of ours. And once again, thank you. Thank you for your support.
Thank you so much. And thank you for having me. This
Boom.
has been great.
And well, this was episode 80. Take care. Miss me. Don't miss me too much. You'll see me next week. And well, I'll see you maybe not next week, but anyways, later
Merry
on.
Christmas from my side.
Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. Happy birthday. Happy everything. And well, take care and bye for now.